Welcome back to Up the Villa. This is the big one. It is huge. And as a football fan, I did not expect to ever be doing an episode previewing Aston Villa v Bayern Munich. But we are here and we've got a jam-packed episode for you. We're going to go and just share our emotion on how we're feeling ahead of this big occasion. We're going to have a look at the tactical pad on Bayern Munich. We're going to go in depth on Bayern Munich, and then we're just going to touch on a lot of other different topics as well. So if you are new, make sure you are subscribing to the channel. This is probably the biggest occasion at Villa Park in my life, and Hannah's. So I want 1,200 likes on this episode and comment your thoughts on how you're feeling. Hannah, how are you?
I'm very well. This is probably like the episode that I've been most looking forward to since, the draw happened. I've just been thinking I can't wait to talk about playing Bayern Munich at home. I think this game has so many different aspects to it that make it really important, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But, the fact that the winning game in 1982 is against Bayern, and with the recent passing of Gary Shaw, and, there's lots of different factors that mean that this is going to be a really emotional night, I think. So even before we talk about football, I think the occasion itself we could talk about that for a whole episode, couldn't we?
Well, let's start with the occasion then. And for me personally, I've just touched on it already, that this is probably the biggest occasion at Villa Park in my lifetime, because this is a team that's come into Villa Park that is huge. They are absolutely massive. They are like gigantic on the sphere of football. In world football, European football, everybody knows who Bayern Munich are. They're just elite. And they are coming to Villa Park for a competitive game. And I'm just really excited to see them play. I want to hear the crowd. I want to hear the anthem. I just want to look at everybody that's walking to the ground thinking, God, everyone's buzzing to see us play tonight on this stage. I imagine when we walk up to the stadium and you'll see the lights in the distance, you'll just be like, something magical is going to happen in there tonight. But it's huge, and I'm really excited because I think, as a fan of football and a Villa fan who has been sat at home watching Champions League football for my whole life, watching those teams line up, watching Real Madrid and, even just like massive Portuguese teams, Italian teams, Premier League teams. I've just been in envy that I've never been able to experience what that's like, the elite European night. And I just can't wait for it. And I'm just so excited and I'm just buzzing for it because, yeah, it's going to be difficult, but let's embrace it. How are you feeling, Hannah? Like, how are you feeling about playing Bayern Munich?
I think it's one of those games that isn't really going to sink in until I'm in the ground and I see the teams walk out because, yeah, like you say, biggest game of most of fans of a certain age lives, really, isn't it? I think when the fixtures came out, this was like, I'm 100% whatever's going on, cancelling it. I'm going to be at that game. I think it is going to be emotional. I think I'm really excited that it's like a night under the lights. I think, having the previous cup winners players there, obviously minus Gary, will be really special as well. I think the club will want to make it like a really good occasion for the fans that are able to be in the stadium, because I think hopefully it's felt from all of the fans, but also the club, of how big of an occasion it is. They understand that for Villa fans, we've been waiting for decades and decades to get back into this competition. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm of the mindset of like, we've got to feel just so confident, so up for it, because we don't know when we'll have a game like this again. Obviously, we've got other Champions League games to come. We're just at the start of the campaign. So, we've got this excitement to come another 3 times at home. But just this one is a little bit more special because of the opposition and because it's the first game. So I think I'm going into it thinking, I can't wait. I'm almost not expecting anything, but at the same time expecting everything. I want to see the best Villa performance of my life, but at the same time, if we lose, as long as it's like been a good night, I'll almost not mind as much. So, yeah, I think the minute I hear that Champions League music for the first time in the ground will be very special, and I think the players will feel it too. Obviously, the squad that we've got now, we've got a lot more probably European experienced players than we've had in the past. But even them, like if I think to like the likes of Ezri Konsa, who's been at the club for a number of years and sort of helped us get to this point and hasn't played in Europe before, an occasion like that for him, he'll feel it as well. And there'll be other players in the team that have been on a real journey with it, Villa, or just that they're a player that we've recently signed, has played in the Champions League before, but they've not done it at Villa. So that makes it special. So I think it's going to be felt from the fan to the club to the players. The manager's going to absolutely revel in it. So I'm really excited. And I think the football at the minute is almost secondary to the emotion that we feel about this game. But the football itself is the main focus once that whistle blows, isn't it? So we've got to match them somehow.
It is a very important part of Wednesday night, the football. But I'm kind of with you. I think the fans have got that sort of like excitement and the occasion vibe of it, and what a night it's going to be. You know, I hear some fans talk about that they've seen Pele at Villa Park. You know, this to me is going to be one of those where if anyone's still watching this channel in 20 years' time, I'll be going, do you remember that night at like Villa Park when we played Bayern Munich? Like, I'll be saying that. So it's got that feel to it. But the players, they are going to be coming up against an elite team. You know, they won't need any sort of hyping up for this performance because they know what's coming. They know that this team that is coming are one of the best teams in world and European football. They are that good. So we've got one sort of ace card for me, and it's the manager, Unai Emery. Now, Unai Emery has been in this scenario before, even playing against Bayern Munich. He knocked Bayern Munich out of the Champions League when he was at Villarreal. And we all talk about Unai Emery quite a lot of his experience and how good he is. But he's our guide. He's our guider. He's guiding the club in the Premier League. He's guiding us in cup competition, but he's guiding us through everything that we do. And he, for me, is a massive factor in this game because we know how tactical astute he is. And I will say now that if we can get it bang on and follow the plan and get it perfect and everybody's at 100%, then I do think we can get something from this game. But we've got to be perfect. And I'll get into that in a second. And I'll show you how difficult it's going to be. But he's coming up against Vincent Kompany, a manager who's gone to Bayern Munich, who's doing really well. He's got off to a really good start. They're unbeaten. They've been absolutely smashing teams, 9-2, was it? Or 5-0 in the league as well. They drew 1-1 at the weekend with Leverkusen. And for as much as everything's going swimmingly well, we can possibly pose big questions to his new, fresh approach at Bayern Munich. So how do you think that battle is going to be, Emery v Kompany?
Well, we must have had it. We must have had it last season when he was at Burnley. So he's not a unknown manager. Put it that way. The difference is the resource that he's got now at Bayern Munich is considerably different to what he had at Burnley. I think it's going to be a really interesting competition because Emery has the top trump in terms of sort of like European experience on a managerial level. We know Kompany, you know, has been in a changing room on a European night like this, but he hasn't managed them like this before. Obviously, had that quite spectacular 9-2 in the last game, but this is quite a different opposition for Kompany and his team. I think he will no doubt have been preparing for an Unai Emery masterclass because we know that that's what he's capable of. I think Unai Emery's experience in this competition is one of our biggest weapons in the next 2 months that we're going to be competing in this league format. So for the most part, I think so much of it will be almost won in the changing room. You know, the tactical decisions, the way Unai sets us up against this Bayern Munich team. I think so much of it will be won that way rather than performance. But like you say, the performances also have to be perfect. We know that they've got so much talent in that team. Like, if you know, they've got a fully fit squad, we'll probably touch on Harry Kane and whether he's going to be available. But when they've got that fully fit team, it's scary. It's a very, very dangerous lineup. So I think that's the one thing that concerns me, because at the moment we are leaking goals like nobody's business, other than in Switzerland against Young Boys. So I think it'll be really interesting to see what kind of approach we take, because we do also have the home advantage. I think I'd feel very differently about this game if we weren't playing at home. Like, if this was an away fixture, I'd be absolutely bricking it. But there's just something about playing at home. Now, my other half, he's a Newcastle fan, and he always talks about when they beat PSG at home last year in the Champions League, and at that point PSG were flying. But because they were at home and it was this big special atmosphere, the players just all became spectacular. Do you know what I mean? Pulling out 9s out of 10s performances. And I think that's what it's going to be. If we make the occasion filter through to those players in a positive way, in a sense that they're just totally like energized, invigorated, and carry out the game plan, I agree. I think we can get something out of this game, but it won't be easy. I'm not saying that for a second.
It won't be easy. So what I'm about to do, Hannah, is you can sit back and relax, right? And I'm going to go through Bayern Munich. And I'm going to ask you your thoughts on how you're feeling once I've done this little presentation. Okay, right.
Probably going to be feeling worse off.
Let's get stuck into it then. So here we go. Bayern Munich. How are they going to set up? They are a very dominant team in possession. They are elite. And what you'll see at Villa Park is probably 10 players inside our own half. So Harry Kane leads the line for Bayern Munich. We've got Musiala, we've got Serge Gnabry, and we've got Elise. It's a front four. What happens with the Bayern Munich system is Kimmich and Pavlovic are in the centre of midfield. You'll see Guerrero going into midfield. You'll see Davis going into midfield. And Bayern Munich will become a 2-4-4. And that will be their formation. So they will be camped in the Villa half with a 2-4-4. What used to happen was Kimmich would play as right back. He would step into midfield, but he doesn't do that as such anymore. It's mainly Kimmich as a central midfielder, and he's the player that Aston Villa need to shut down the most. He's their most important player. Passing networks, everything goes into Kimmich. Elise is having a fantastic season, but another big thing about Bayern Munich is their rotations. Everybody rotates, everybody moves. The signing of Harry Kane was probably a perfect signing for Bayern Munich, because they've got runners that can run off Harry Kane. Kane still drops deep. You'll have Musiala, you'll have Elise, you've got Guerrero out there. You'll have all these players in a line on the edge of the box, moving, rotating around. They are absolutely elite. The big thing as well in build-up that you'll notice is when they're building out from the back, you'll see Aston Villa. So imagine this is Pau and Konsa. We'll be in this position here. Bayern Munich will be like this. That's where their two centre-halves will go. And Neuer will be outside his box like that, just knocking the ball around. So they are a team that are just loving complete control. Musiala, we've all heard about Musiala. Hannah, you've spoke about some of their players as well. But what they've got is two players in every position. Like, we think, okay, we're great, we've got two players in every position. You take Serge Gnabry out, you put Leroy Sané in there, you've got Kingsley Coman in there, you've got Polina in there, you've got Goretzka in there, you've got some fantastic players who are just absolutely unbelievable. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you some of the images of what Bayern Munich like to do in build-up and in possession. So here we can see we've got Manuel Neuer on the ball. I've showed you again the two centre-backs completely splitting. So it's important that we're going to have two players up front as well. So we'll be able to press those two centre halves as well. Ollie Watkins is crucial in this. But the big player for me is Kimmich. So you can see him here. There's a three at the back, the two centre halves, and Kimmich is the player that's furthest at the top of the screen, and then everybody else is in a line. So Kimmich will often drop back and make up part of that back three as well. Again, here we've got Kimmich on the ball, standing up three Leverkusen players. This was from the weekend. So Kimmich is absolutely integral to everything that Bayern Munich will be doing in this game as well. Not only that, when Leverkusen get the ball, Bayern Munich press with numbers. Like, it's a press like nothing else. There's about 5 players there, all completely pressing, which is just absolutely insane. So what I do want to show you as well is I want to show you the Bayern Munich passing network. So you can see that number 6 centrally is Kimmich, and you can see that this is off the last 3 games in the Bundesliga. So the top combinations: Kimmich to Upamecano, 62. We've got Upamecano to Kimmich, 60. We've got Kimmich to Kim, 47. We've got Kim to Kimmich, 46. Kimmich to Elise, 38. So those numbers there are absolutely insane. Why it looks a little bit lopsided as well is we've got Gnabry, and you can either put Kingsley Coman in there as well, and that network will just be more complete as well. But it's a mental network. But as you can see, there's that 2-4-4 formation. We can see the passing areas over the last 3 matches as well. So you can see that the passings are going into final third areas, complete and utter domination from Bayern Munich. We can see on the areas of influence as well, this is their back 5. So notice Neuer's position. Look where he's playing. He's like a centre-back. We've got Kim Min-jae and Upamecano. We've got Guerrero, and we've got Davies, who are pushing into really advanced areas. Guerrero as well can go into central midfield, and he can rotate with Kimmich as well. We've got Kimmich. You can see how sort of heavy and wide Kimmich's area is. So when you see him getting the ball off the back 3 as well, he can go into those central areas even more, and he can go out wide, and he can operate as cover for the right back as well. And then the area of influence for the forward 4 players, Coman, Kane, Musiala, and Elise, you know, they are just a mad team. These are the Bayern Munich shots from the last 3 games. So they're averaging 22 shots a game with 66 shots in total off their last 3 games. And you can see here that they are averaging only 2.3 shots on their goal. And that's 7 shots in total from their last 3 games. But, Hannah, there is a way for Aston Villa. And my way is we have to harness our inner Manchester City performance and Arsenal performances from this season, where we can get joy and how we can exploit them. We know that Bayern Munich are going to be with a back 2, settled in that 2-4-4 shape. So if Aston Villa can get the ball into Morgan Rogers, we were able to do this with John McGinn here, and then we was able to send Leon Bailey away. That is one area that I think we're going to have to utilise. We're going to have to be really clever. We're going to have to make sure that every attack counts. Every attack has substance. Again, this was against Manchester City last season. The Villa press, when it goes into midfield, we're going to have to be on them. We're going to have to be sharp. We're going to have to use the right moments and know when to press Bayern Munich. But we was able to do it against Man City. We won the ball back here, and we was able to create an opportunity. And then finally, this is where we scored our goal against Manchester City last season. On transition, we was able to attack with Bailey. Bailey's pace was just absolutely unbelievable. The other big things to note is that I will say ball carriers are massively important against Bayern Munich, because if we can get further up the pitch with a Ramsey, with Rodgers, with Watkins, with Bailey dribbling the ball, set pieces are a massive threat for Aston Villa as well. So we know how creative we are. If we can get forward, we can win those. That's what we're going to have to do. This is very, very difficult. But like you said, we all have to be pretty much 9.5, 10 out of 10s across the board to get anything from this, because it is going to be so difficult. But we have to believe, and I think the blueprint for me was that Man City performance last season. Like we went into that game knowing that it was the best team in England, the best team in Europe coming to Villa Park, and how difficult it was going to be, and that we were going to have to defend well. But what we were able to do is just create havoc and cause chaos on Man City, and we ripped them apart. So I do think we can do this again, and I do think we can get something from this game. But like I said, we've got to be pretty much nearly perfect to do so. And the one thing that I will say, and this is my final point on this, is that we very rarely get into a position when we're playing teams where we are defending for 90 minutes. You know those games back in the day against prime Man City when we weren't very good, and they'd just have all the ball, and we'd just be like 11 at the back. We don't do that anymore. So that gives me a little bit of hope that Emery doesn't set up like that. So we will be able to create something. So hopefully everyone's enjoyed my little tactical presentation. How are you feeling after that, Hannah?
I would say it was very educational because it's not like I sit and watch the Bundesliga every week. I think you've probably confirmed a couple of the things that I thought were true. Excuse me. Which is that our press has to be excellent, and that the midfield will be really key. And I think those are two things I'd say that we probably haven't quite had perfect in the last few games in the league. I'd say the press, like we know on his day, like especially I think when the crowd gets behind the team and gives them a bit of a kick up the backside, that we can press really well. And it's one of those things I remember stood out so much from that Man City game is that we did not let them breathe on the ball for a second, because we know, like you say, Man City are a team that dominate and control games. They will sit on the ball comfortably, passing it around for 80% of a football match. And we did not allow them to breathe. We were on them constantly. And so much of that was in the midfield. Again, the likes of John McGinn. At that point, it was Douglas Luiz, and I think we may have still had Kamara in the team at that point. Could be wrong. But we just didn't let them breathe. And I think this season there's been some times where I felt we've been a little bit passive. The midfield, obviously, we've seen it be quite strong. You know, Tielemans has done a good job of replacing Douglas Luiz. And Onana's obviously had like a relatively good start. So it's not to say that the midfield isn't good, but I do think at points it's been a bit passive. So the focus for me would be like making sure that that core of the team is like so solid. Like you say, Kimmich is the focal point of that team in terms of like the anchor, the one who's directing traffic and travel and kind of dictating the play. So we almost need Tielemans or someone to like emulate that and to really again be our anchor. I think we will have chances, like you said. I can't remember the last time we had a game where we were just absolutely trounced for 90 minutes. We didn't get a shot. We were terrible. We've not played like that, touch wood, for a long time, and we get chances. Even on the games where we haven't played well, we've had chances, and a lot of times we've scored goals. As much as they have quality, that doesn't take away from the quality we have and the manager that we have that sets us up in a way that helps us to win football matches and even get draws out of football matches, which we didn't used to do. We used to capitulate, we used to cave under pressure, and now for the most part I feel like we rise to challenge. And I think, like you say, there'll be no better occasion than Wednesday night. The players know, like we did against City, that they're going to play one of the best teams in the world. That should be, if anything, a chance to be like, look, I need to have the game of a lifetime tonight because everyone's watching. So I think the press, the midfield, get them right, and we'll be able to assert some of that control and dominance. We are the home team. I do think we are going to have to concede possession a lot in this game because of the nature of how good Bayern Munich are at the moment. But if we do what we can do, like we know we have previously, I think we'll be able to hopefully get a little bit of that control. I think, like you say, having a player like Ramsey on his best that can just drive us forward, potentially at times that we may struggle to be on the ball. If we've got a player like Rodgers, like Ramsey, even at times, you know, what Pau Torres can do, driving us forward, I think that's going to be really important to just kind of force us to be confident and force us to be direct, because I don't want us to sit back, and I don't think Emery will want us to sit back. We're not that kind of team. So yeah, the only thing is just like individual quality. Like, we know they're going to have moments where their star players shine through, and they've got a lot of them. So we need to just make sure that our star players shine through as well. But yeah, getting the core of that team right and the energy. I think they might be tired. We've had a lot of games already this season, but come on, we're at the very start of October. This is the biggest night of this club's history in years. If you're going to have energy, Wednesday night is the night. So hopefully that gives them a firecracker up the backside to press like they've never pressed before.
Yeah. Come on, you're playing Bayern Munich. So something else I just want to touch on is the importance of our players. And I think what we generally see in the Premier League is Villa with control, Villa with all the ball, Villa at times getting hit on transition on a counter-attack. Villa's style last season was slow and intricate, fast and direct, pretty much slap down the middle. We can do everything. So Villa's game plan for me will be to be able to go fast and direct. We've already touched on it, but we know Bayern Munich are going to be with this shape, the 2-4-4. That is how they play. So they're going to leave two defenders back. It's important that we have Watkins that is on their shoulder, that is just ready to go. We know Bailey's going to be exactly the same. I showed you the image of Bailey when we had that attack against Man City. I think Rodgers could be on Kimmich a little bit deeper, because we know that Rodgers' physicality. We know Rodgers can just dribble, bump anyone off the ball. He's going to be key, sort of like bursting through that little line through there with Pavlovic and Kimmich. And then I think we're going to be away. Ramsey as well, bursting forward, dribbling, getting us further down the pitch. So I think that is how Villa probably will approach this game. You know, we'll try and be as compact and as organised as we possibly can. But I think the big thing about Emery is when we talk about Emery having a plan, you know, some of you might think, okay, we know he's got a plan, but what is his plan? His plan probably might be something like a Rodgers just floating around Kimmich and just making sure he's just sort of like covering where he goes, making sure that we're covering passing lanes, making sure that when we not only pressing, but we're blocking the avenue for passes to go into, because Emery will know the playbook of Bayern Munich. He will know where Neuer gets the ball. Where's Neuer going to pass it to? We'll have all the data that will tell us where that pass is going to. You know, I can probably we can pull this up here, that what we got from the last 3 games. So we haven't got the keeper on here, but we know that Kimmich and Upamecano have got a really good relationship. So if we can block out that passing lane at times, then that's going to work out well as well. I think when I think about Champions League football, and I think we've spoke about the occasion, I'm actually looking forward to watching some of their players, like just seeing what they're like. You know, what's their touch like? What's the level like? What are these elite players like? What's Kimmich like on the ball? What's his vision like? Where does he run off the ball? Musiala, how does he play off the ball? We know all about Kane. But I have also, what I did want to mention just as well is that I have been speaking to a Bayern Munich fan. We've done the opposition preview. I've been on his channel as well. And their 2 worst players are the 2 centre-backs. So he's told me that their worst players are the centre-backs. So it's important that we massively put them under pressure as well. Who are you looking forward to seeing for Bayern Munich then, Hannah?
I really like Musiala. I think we've seen some the best I've seen of him probably has been at international level. Like I say, I haven't really watched much of Bayern, but I really like him. I think he's a great player. Beyond that, like I've not, like I say, I've seen Elise and Kane obviously in the Premier League, and there's a few of them I've probably seen once or twice in like passing when watching other Champions League games, but I think I'm excited to see them as a unit and see how they connect and how their style of play works. And again, it's interesting how much of this is like Vincent Kompany's impact, or how much of it is just ingrained in like the Bayern philosophy that has been there for, you know, for quite a number of years. I'm excited to see how they set up and how they work as a team, because we know how dangerous they can be, but you know, coming to Villa Park and seeing it will be a whole different proposition. I think the point on the centre backs is quite interesting, because we're obviously at a point where our back four is changing quite a lot and we're having problems with conceding goals. So it could end up being that this is another high scoring game, which I don't know how good will be for my little ticker. But I think if I talk about what Villa can do, we know that Watkins can have some really good movement around a centre back. Like, he knows how to get around the back. So if their two centre backs are slightly iffy, say slightly iffy, for it to be their worst two players, they could still be quite good. So I'll take that with a pinch of salt, but I'm excited to see how Watkins can deal with that and how he can capitalise on it. But yeah, I think just seeing the whole team, to be honest, might maybe a bit of a cop-out answer, but I think they are such a unit, aren't they? Like, they have star quality, but in general, the whole team's just well-oiled and works really well together. So seeing them as a unit, I think, will be quite interesting. I used to think that sometimes, like when you had a really good City performance. I remember, did they beat us 6-1 at home one year, maybe our first season back? And I remember it got to the point of just sitting in the stands and thinking, do you know what? I've just got to kind of sit and enjoy how good Man City are at this point, because we were miserable. So I think sometimes it's quite interesting to watch a team like that in the flesh and appreciate some of the quality.
Yeah, I think this game won't sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Won't what's the word, Hannah? You're good with words. It won't sort of like not make or break, but it won't sort of like, I'm after a word.
Not sure what you're going for. Make or break the campaign, or
yeah, something like that. Like, it won't sort of like dictate, define. It won't define. That's the word. It won't define where we are in the Champions League. But I think it's going to be, for me, it's going to be quite a good barometer to see how far away we are from a team like this. So if I had to ask you, walking out that ground, probably around, what, we're going to be about 10 o'clock-ish, what do you hope you've seen? What's your ideal scenario?
I mean, ideal is that I've just watched us win 5-0 or something. But if I'm thinking realistic, yeah, I don't know. Maybe spoiling score predictions. I'm not sure how I feel about a win, just being realistic. However, what I hope I've seen is a Villa team that's come out and not been afraid. A Villa team that's come out and looked well drilled, energised, like we've said. And they look like they're not just coming out and fearing an opposition. I want them to do me proud, in the sense that I feel like they understand the importance of the game, because I can see that everything is left out on the pitch. Like, there's heart. People are going in for challenges, but not stupid ones. Like, just footballing brain, like a bit of IQ. I want to see a performance that makes me think, do you know what? Even if we didn't win, we played well. We performed. And I think a lot of that will just be energy levels, because, you know, you can have a game where you know that the opposition on paper should be better than you. But if you go into it, we've seen it before, with that energy and that kind of tenacity to win a second ball, or to make that challenge, and a sliding defence that, you know, stops a goal from going in. I feel like so many times, especially in a competition like this, where when you're at the best of the best, there's fine margins. If we're going to come against some of these excellent opposition, we want to, yes, have the equal quality, but we've got to accept that sometimes we're going to be against opposition that are better than us. So what makes up that deficit is that passion, I think, that heart. And I think that's what Villa can have in this game, and that can be what I take away at 10 o'clock when I'm hopefully walking out and feeling quite happy with a point or three. I just want to see my players that have done me proud.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where I am. I want to see this as a head turner. I really hope that this can be one of those where people go, "Oh my god, like what have they done there?" Like I just hope that it could possibly be that, because I think everything that you say, I think on paper, are they better than us? Yes, but we see so many times that teams can raise their level and get to a level, and I just hope that we get to see a proper Emery European performance. Like I've spoke about this before, of watching Villarreal go to Turin to play Juventus, and they did an absolute European job on them. And I just really hope that we can do that. I hope that our players, I hope they step up. I really do. I hope that they raise their level and they get to a level that I think deep down I know they can get to, but I think sometimes we don't see it every single week, because these types of performances that are needed, you can't just go and do that every week. Like you have to just completely raise it. So it's been a really good preview, because we've chatted more emotionally, and we've also checked out their team as well. So we'll do score predictions then. I'll let you go first then.
Oh, I was hoping you'd go first.
What's your score prediction?
Can I have one with my head and one with my heart?
Yeah, because I'm going to say I've got two.
Yeah, I'll go with my heart first. My heart says we're gonna win, and we're gonna win like a 3-2. It's gonna be like a really end-to-end wacky game, and we get a late winner because we've liked doing that recently. But my head says maybe like a 2-0 Bayern, but we play well. I don't know. I can't predict us to get absolutely battered, because I just don't see it happening. Maybe I'll live to regret that, but I think either way, I feel like we're going to turn up on Wednesday night.
Yeah, my heart says exactly the same as you, 3-2. I think it's just going to be like intense, you'll come out sweating. Like it's been that hot in there. Like I think it's going to be like that. My head says, and I've got to be honest, my head says 4-0. My head say, and I don't actually think that's a battering. I think we'll be well in the game, but my head says 4-0 Bayern. I just can't, I just got to be honest. That's how I see it. They are incredible.
It's not very often we'll predict a 4-0 loss. So if this is it, then fair play.
Yeah. So Villa fans, score predictions in. Hopefully you've all enjoyed this episode. Probably not the end. My score predictions probably put a right downer on it, but there we go. But yeah. Cheers everyone for watching. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.